Downtown, I got that heat, let's go. Downtown, I got that heat, let's go. Downtown, I got that heat, let's go.
Oh, yeah. What is up, good people? Happy sad day, June 7th, 2025. Man, let me turn me down. Well, let me turn me up and then turn the music down. Make sure you guys can hear me. Oh, man. Saturday afternoon stream. What do you want better than that? For those of you here in the live chat, big salute to you all. Thank you for being here and watching and tuning in. I'm really trying to find time to do these streams. I haven't done one in what seems and feels like forever. I think the last stream I did was following the Pacers beating the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I haven't been able to do one since. But, you know, it kind of feels like good timing because Game 1 of the NBA Finals is in the books, and we learned a lot about these two teams. So obviously the series is not done. Let's make sure we get that out of the way. The NBA Finals Game 1 was fantastic and phenomenal. I think it's worth talking about a couple of things from the game, obviously. A lot of people are really, really down on the Thunder. I wouldn't be. I mean, it's a disappointing ending to the game. But you're talking about a team that was in control for a bulk majority of the game with like 9-point lead, 10-point lead, 12-point lead, that sort of thing. They had the opportunity to win the game. They didn't win, but clearly they're capable of winning. So I'm not out on the Thunder just yet, but I am really big on the Pacers because the way that they won is so crucial to discuss the rest of the series. So obviously we're going to talk finals today. We're going to talk Draymond Green. I mean, this dude, man. Oh my God. Draymond Green is the gift that keeps on Draymonding. Oh man, he's an idiot. He's hilarious. He is a funny dude. I got to give him some credit. I think unintentionally funny. I think he's funniest when he's trying to be serious, which sounds crazy, but I think it's true. We're going to talk Jordan joining NBC as like a special analyst, commentator, that sort of thing. I'm going to talk about why that's bad for LeBron's business. LeBron, man, and the media, as they say. All right, so we're going to talk about that. The Draymond Green commentary where he was discussing the best defenders of all time. We'll talk the NBA Finals and Tyrese Halliburton. I think we got to have this conversation. This dude has gone from zero to hero. And it's just crazy to see how he could be voted by his contemporaries as the most overrated player in the league by such an overwhelming margin. And then he's just going to decide, yeah, I'm just going to go to the NBA Finals. I'm just going to hit a bunch of game-winning shots to get my team to the NBA Finals. He said, that's what I'm going to do. His process was, to hell with him. Fuck him. You know, I'm just going to be the best version of player I could be. And I don't give a damn what anybody says. Bless him. That guy is phenomenal. It's tough because obviously I'm a Cavs fan and he's going to be in my conference and division giving us hell for all these years. But man, it's been a really amazing thing to see the evolution of him. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. We're already kind of 10 minutes into the show. I think what we'll do is we'll start here with the Draymond story. And man, Draymond Green, man. Oh man, this guy. All right. So Draymond Green was asked about the best NBA defenders of all time. And right off the bat, Draymond Green says he is number one on the list. I get it. That's the whole concept of, you know, you got to have confidence in yourself, right? You got to be all in on yourself if you're going to, you know, be one of the best of all time. You got to say you're one of the best of all time. You got to believe in what you're saying. Obviously you got to play like it as well. Draymond Green is not even remotely close to the tier that contains the best defenders of all time. He's not in the tier. So I don't even want to get into like who's in the top tier just yet. Like who are the best top 5 defenders of all time. He's so far from that level. We can't have that conversation about him being the best defender of all time. He doesn't have the blocked shot prowess. He doesn't have the active hands, steals, anticipation. He doesn't have that special capability and knack in that tier. He's a very, very good defender. He's an excellent defender. He's one of the best defenders of his era, but that does not put you in top tier, let alone top defender. I have seen in just my lifetime several players who are better than him at mostly everything on defense. In his era, he is a top flight defender. He is all NBA defense. He's won a DPOY before. I'm not questioning his ability to be considered one of the best defenders of his era. He is not in the top echelon of top defenders of all time. No way. That is so disrespectful for the guys that came before him that were so elite on defense. They are renowned and known as the best defenders of all time. There's so many guys that belong in that consideration that are better than him. But here's what Draymond had to say about that. And the article was written, I think, by Brent Brookhouse over at CBS Sports. Draymond Green, for his resume, has been an all-NBA defender in terms of selections to the all-NBA team, all-NBA defense, 9 times in his career. Do we know how many seasons Draymond Green has played? Let's see. Draymond Green has played 12 seasons in the NBA. So, 13, 14. Wait, no, 12 seasons. All right, so if he was drafted in 2012, that would put him at like 12 or 13 complete seasons. I'm not sure. They got it as 2012-13 is when he was drafted. Okay. And then 24-25 is completing now. So he's completed that. So let's just say 12 seasons. He's played them all with the same team. He's been a really important part of why they have won championships because of his defense. He has been tasked with defending at a high level for a very long time. Over a decade, he has been an excellent defender. So this is a nuanced conversation. It's not that it's not a valid claim to say that he is a great defender. I think his greatness on defense is acknowledged by pretty much everyone. But him putting himself as number 1 is laughable. It's a joke. I hope it's just tongue in cheek and he's being a jokester. But to put himself as the best defender of all time, hell to the no. Draymond Green was nominated All-NBA defense 9 times in 12 seasons, so very well accomplished. DPOY in 2017, and he finished 3rd in DPOY this year. Just a reminder that the winner of the award was Evan Mobley. And, Draymond finishing 3rd probably would have finished 4th had Wemby finished the season and probably won the DPOY. Probably, right? But man, his list contains great players, but he's got himself as number 1. All right, so here's who else is in his list. Top 5. Draymond says Ben Wallace is on that list. Is Ben Wallace a top 5 defender all time? Maybe. When Ben Wallace was in the league, He was a cold-blooded defensive killer. He's got a hell of a defensive resume, too. All right, so Ben Wallace, also known as Big Ben, played for the Detroit Pistons. I think he spent a couple of seasons in Chicago, maybe. I think he played for the Wizards. I remember he had a short stint with the Cavs, kind of at the end of his career. Trying to remember here. So he played for the Wizards from 96 to 99. He played for the Magic for, I think, 1 year before I would call his heyday, his prime, went to the Detroit Pistons when they made their finals runs and Eastern Conference Finals and their dominance within the conference, and he was a big part of that. He played for the Bulls for a few years and then the Cavs for one, I think, and then he came home to the Pistons where he rounded out his career. So Ben Wallace is a champion. He won a ring in 2004, the inevitable ring, the amazing ring. The Pistons beat the Lakers in 2004 in one of the most lopsided series we've ever seen. During his run, he was a 4-time NBA All-Star from 03 to 06, basically because of his defense. 3-time All-NBA second team, 03, 4, and 6. 2-time All-NBA third team, 02 and 05. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. 4-time. So 02, 03, 5, and 6. 5-time NBA All-Defensive First Team, NBA All-Defensive Second Team in 07. He was also a 2-times NBA rebounding leader during that time frame. He was an NBA blocks leader in 2002. That is one hell of a resume. Does Ben Wallace belong in anybody's top 5 defenders all time? Sure. You can have that. Now, it doesn't take into account the others that may be more deserving to be in the top 5. But Ben Wallace is a good pick. Ben Wallace was amazing. Ben Wallace was a force, a defensive force. Do I think Draymond Green is more of a defensive force than Ben Wallace? Hell no. Not even close. Ben Wallace was scary. Ben Wallace was the reason why guys couldn't score. Guys score on Draymond Green often. He's not locking anyone up. He makes great defensive plays. He is not a force like Ben Wallace was. They don't belong in the same conversation. They do not. Ben Wallace was a fierce competitor on the defensive end. He prevented people from scoring. He stopped them completely in cold blood. Some of his blocks were almost impossible. Like you would see them, some of the guys he had to defend. Like think about the players that Ben Wallace had to defend. Shaq was in that era, still somewhat in his prime. Kevin Garnett was in that era, right? Like there were guys that were multifaceted, incredible offensive players across all these different levels, right? 15, 20 feet out within the paint, had hook shots, had pivots, moves, had very reliable offensive bags. A lot of stuff that's missing in today's league from the center position. There's only a few guys that really have any type of center impact offensively in terms of diversity, right? You have Joker, Cat's a pretty nice player offensively. There's a few guys, but there were Hall of Fame offensive talents, multi-dimensional players and scorers that Ben Wallace had to deal with, and physical forces that he had to deal with guys like Shaq, Tim Duncan, like elite, outside of Joker, who's the elite center in the NBA? Joel Embiid doesn't play. Or else I would be giving Draymond some credit if he had to defend him night in and night out. But it's really a bunch of stretch players, smaller guys, and that's why Draymond Green gets to play center in this NBA. Draymond Green is not Ben Wallace. No. They don't belong in the same conversations. Absolutely not. Who else did Draymond Green put in his top 5? He put Tim Duncan. Yeah. Hell yeah, I would say Tim Duncan belongs in a top 5. right? Let's look at Tim Duncan's let's look at his resume, his defensive resume. I mean, he's obviously very celebrated. 5-time NBA champion, 3-time NBA Finals MVP, 2-time NBA MVP, 15-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA first team, 3-time All-NBA second team, 2-time All-NBA third team. Now, when it comes to defensive, All-NBA defensive teams, 8 times, 7 of them second team. Notice that the first team all NBA defense, right? The first team versus the second team. Those numbers, there's a discrepancy there. It's the era. Tim Duncan had to really fight amongst the dominant bigs of that era. It's really hard to get on an all NBA defensive team in an era that had all NBA defensive talent that was through the roof. You know, so I'm not going to knock Tim Duncan for that. Does Tim Duncan belong in a top 5 all defense, right? All-time defenders? That one's close. That one's close. Putting him in your top 5, I like Tim Duncan, so I'm good with it. But there's some people who are going to say he does not belong in a top 5. They're going to say, I got 10 guys better than Tim Duncan. They're going to say, there's people that are going to tell you that there are 5 centers, 6, 7 centers who are better defenders than Tim Duncan. They're going to say power forwards, there were 5 guys better than Tim Duncan. Maybe. They might be able to pull that argument. I don't think you can make the power forward argument, but maybe. I don't know. Somebody might try to do that. I disagree. I think Tim Duncan is in the pantheon of best defensive power forwards of all time. He's better than Draymond Green. Leaps and bounds better than him. He's better fundamentally, in my opinion. He's a better shot blocking big, in my opinion. I saw Tim Duncan make some incredible blocks. I've seen Draymond make great blocks too. But Tim Duncan did it for a long time. That's a lot of all NBA defenses with a bunch of competition. Again, who in his era is Draymond competing with? Joel Embiid doesn't play. Joker doesn't play defense consistently enough. He's very picky and situational when he decides to play defense. Who, Avaka Zubac? Like, who we're going to say are the dominant bigs playing defense? You know, now he's got some competition because now you got Mobley emerging. You got, Wemby emerging. Come on, man. Not even close. Draymond Green doesn't belong in a conversation with Tim Duncan. All right. Here's a laughable one. Tony Allen. Draymond Green has Tony Allen in his top 5 defenders of all time. Oh, my God. Tony Allen. Former basketball player Tony Allen. Here we go, man. Draymond Green has him in his top 5 defenders all time. All right. I don't want to poo-poo on Tony Allen, right? I think Tony Allen's fantastic. But check this out, right? He was a champion in 08. All right, so credit to him. 3-time NBA All-Defensive First Team. Very nice. 3-time NBA All-Defensive Second Team. But that's all I got. Tony Allen has never been a DPOY. Tony Allen doesn't have the resume, the extended resume of all NBA defensive teams. He doesn't have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these, 10 of these, 11, 12 of these. In my opinion, to be a top 5 defender all time, if you're looking at the awards and the accolades, you got to have like a decade of extreme dominance defensively. You have to be viewed as like the elite defender of your position or positions during your peak era of defense. Tony Allen had to guard Kobe, and Kobe mentioned that, may he rest in peace, Kobe mentioned Tony Allen as being the toughest defender on him. So that gives him a lot of cachet because Kobe said that. But, I mean, top 5 defenders? Is Tony Allen a top 5 defender all time? I don't think so. I think this is Draymond maybe saying he's one of his favorite defenders all time. It's really hard to say that a guy with a few all NBA first teams and a few all NBA second teams defense belongs in a top 5 pantheon of all-time defenders. That's not a good pick. So I think Draymond's that's not really fitting of a top 5. And then he rounds it out with Hakeem Olajuwon. Remember, he put himself as number 1. This one is probably his most important pick that he put in here, and I'm going to tell you guys why. If you notice, Draymond is picking guys that are relatively recent in their playing careers. He's got himself, obviously, but then he's got like Ben Wallace, who played within the last 15 years. I mean, it's been almost 20 since he was in his prime, right? But that's relatively recent. He's got Tony Allen, who's within the last decade. He's got Duncan, who's within the last 15 years, right? He's picking recent guys. But Hakeem is a throwback to the 90s. So I think in order for Draymond to get some credibility in this pick, to put him in his top 5, he had to make sure he got someone from the most dominant defensive era of the NBA, which is the 1990s. They played defense. The Goon chimes in. He said Drake continuing to expose himself as a defender just by this list. Hey, look, Goon, I don't know, man. Dre putting himself on the list is the first issue I have with the list because Draymond does not belong in this conversation. I stated earlier that he doesn't even belong in a top tier list of greatest defenders of all time. He's an excellent defender for his era, but he does not have not only the achievements, but just when you watch him play defense, he's not a dominant defensive force in the ways that we saw some of the other great defenders in the history of the league. So I'm not going to argue the order because I don't think he was giving an order, but listen to some of these names that he didn't mention who probably belong in this list. The first thing I think is obvious is Bill Russell. He didn't talk about Bill Russell in a conversation about the greatest defenders of all time. Bill Russell is responsible for keeping Wilt Chamberlain away from championships. It's very possible that Wilt could have had 15 championships if Bill Russell never came along and did what he did. Bill Russell dominated defensively for the entirety of his career. Not mentioned in this top 5 list makes Draymond Green look crazy. Bill Russell is regarded as one of the best defenders of all time. Some people call him the best defender of all time. He's an 11-time champion, 5-time NBA MVP. He made All-NBA first team 3 times, All-NBA second team 8 times, All-NBA defensive first team in 1969, which I believe was the first time that they did that. Right? They hadn't done that prior to that. So I think that's why you don't have that kind of thing to go off of. But if you just watch the man play, he was a 4-time rebounding champion in a time where he was up against Wilt Chamberlain, one of the most incredible athletes, size, speed, strength combinations we've ever seen in the history of the league. Bill Russell was preventing him from winning. Who the hell is Draymond Green? Who is Draymond Green preventing from winning games? Who is he keeping out of the NBA Finals, out of championships? What has he done defensively like Bill Russell? I don't see anything there. I think it's incredible that he left off Scottie Pippen, who is widely regarded as one of the best defenders of all time, especially when we talk about perimeter defense and the ability to defend the other team's best wing player. By the way, Scottie had range. Scottie could defend a power forward, small forward, shooting guard. Scottie defended point guards sometimes. Like, Scottie had range. Scottie didn't defend centers, but he had everything else in his defensive capability. To not have him mentioned in a top 5 list, knowing what he accomplished with Michael Jordan in the 90s, it's pretty damn disrespectful. Oh, but there's more. Oh, but there's more. Maybe you could have mentioned Michael Jordan as a top defender all time. A lot of people do. Maybe you want to keep him out of your top 5, but I still think Michael Jordan deserves an honorable mention as one of the greats on defense. Dennis Rodman, what Dennis was doing game in and game out with all the bigs in his era as an undersized big, here's how you know Draymond is an idiot. Dennis Rodman would be a comp for Draymond Green. An undersized big who had to scrape, muscle, fight, and persevere, giving up all the size to the traditional bigs of his era. Dennis would fight with Shaq. Dennis was fighting with the bigs of the era, with the Karl Malones, with Hakeem, with David Robinson, like these all-time great elite centers who are all in the Hall of Fame. Dennis Rodman had to deal with that. Robert Parrish, Bill Laimbeer. He had to deal with all those things. What, Draymond Green, really? You're going to rank yourself over Dennis Rodman? Are you crazy? He really lost a lot of credibility. Hell, you got Gary Payton. You got David Robinson. I would put Kawhi Leonard ahead of Draymond Green because when Kawhi was in his prime, he was absolutely a super lockdown defender. Dikembe Mutombo is all-time great defensively. He kept people, he separated the ball from the hoop when people went up for dunks. Easy too, right? Dikembe, block. I've seen Dikembe Mutombo on multiple occasions have like 4 or 5 blocks on the same play. You ever see Draymond Green have 4 or 5 blocks on a play? You ever see Draymond Green separate players like in a stunning fashion, like make those kind of unique defensive plays like Hakeem Olajuwon and those guys? He doesn't have that. Goon says Draymond's defense is putting Rudy Gobert in a chokehold, so he's a fake bully. All right. I mean, some of these guys he ranked and some of them, the ones that he didn't mention, it just says so much. I mean, I would take Kobe Bryant and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar defensively over Draymond Green. I'm not trying to poo-poo like Tony Allen, but like John Stockton belongs in a conversation as an all-time defender before Tony Allen. Like, look at John Stockton's career as a defender. Like, this guy played from 1984 to 2003, a legitimate 19-20-year career. He made 5 NBA all-defensive second teams. He was an all-NBA first-team player. He's an all-star, all those things. He was a 2-time NBA steals leader. When did Draymond ever have a steals title or a blocks title? He doesn't have any of those things. I mean, Stockton was giving people hell defensively in an era where there were truly impressive all-time great point guards and shooting guards. Remember, Stockton was having, dealing with Michael Jordan, that era. Penny Hardaway, Tim Hardaway, like Hall of Fame star-studded point guard lists. Did Draymond Green have to guard that caliber of player? Not really. Not really. Draymond Green is dealing with Rudy Gobert. Draymond Green is dealing with Jackson Hayes. Nothing wrong with those guys. I don't mean to disrespect, but Joel Embiid is not even playing. He has to deal with Joker a couple times a year. So what? Draymond Green ain't no all-time top-tier defender. He's got the all defensive teams, and that's good. And for his era, he's a great defender. But he's just not these other guys who had that special intangible defensive prowess There's just too many guys that are just better. Dwight Howard is a better defender than Draymond Green. Not even near mentioned or on his list. Anthony Davis, one of Draymond Green's contemporaries, a better defender than Draymond Green. If let's dig back into the 90s, Alonzo Mourning, a better defender. Hell, 80s and 90s, Joe Dumars is a better defender. In my opinion, I think Giannis is a better defender than Draymond Green. I think because he's faster, I think his hands can be just as good and he's just as active. He's also, I think, more capable of blocking some incredible shots. Patrick Ewing is a better defender than Draymond Green. Hell, maybe you could make the argument that Chris Paul is a better defender than Draymond Green. And then from the guys who maybe don't have the all-time considerations because they weren't as great of players, I take Rajon Rondo as a defender over Draymond Green. Who else would I take? Would I take Sean Marion? I definitely would take David Robinson. Anthony Davis. There are so many guys. There's like 50 guys that we could go through a list and say are better defenders than Draymond Green. Draymond is a clown. Draymond is an idiot. And you know what this is? It's him trying to build himself up, right? He wants to be viewed as a great, but unfortunately, sir, you are an overachiever, and that's respectable, but unfortunately, you are not these guys. These guys, for several years, were the most special and elite defenders across any era. I don't know how great Draymond Green is as a defender in rankings in certain eras, like in the 80s, like in the 90s. I don't know if he's a top 10 defender in those eras. He's a top defender today because the way the NBA is today. I don't think he translates well in an era with David Robinson and Dennis Rodman and Hakeem Olajuwon and Ben Wallace and Shaquille O'Neal and Gary Payton and John Stockton. Like, I can just name the elites of those eras. They were much better than him. And he's good and he's excellent for his era. He ain't that. Sorry, bro. You're just a guy that came around at a certain time, and you're just viewed as a good defender for today. All right. Let's do this. All right, so this is pretty big news here. Michael Jordan in the news because Michael Jordan is going to be on NBC. He's going to be stepping in as a special contributor to NBA coverage at that particular media outlet. I think he starts this upcoming season. So October, we are going to be seeing and hearing from Michael Jordan as a special contributor to the coverage. They made the announcement this week. Jordan, during a video message, said, "I'm so excited to see the NBA back on NBC." He said, "The NBA and NBC was a meaningful part of my career, and I'm excited about being a special contributor to the project. I'm looking forward to seeing you all when the NBA and NBC launches this October." What he's talking about is in his career as a player, the golden era of the NBA was during that time when it became like media frenzy in terms of covering the game. The dream team, all the NBA finals runs, Michael Jordan, the biggest star in the history of the NBA to that point, right? And it was all done over NBC. They were the contract for the NBA coverage. David Stern as the commissioner and all that stuff, right? He was the cash cow of the NBA for a long time. And in some ways, like, Michael Jordan is synonymous with the NBA. What's up, Razor? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by today. The thing I want to speak about here and why this is so important for NBC and why I think it doesn't really matter all that much for Jordan. Michael Jordan's mystique, Michael Jordan's career achievements, his greatness, it doesn't require conversations from Michael. Michael's never felt compelled to get in front of a microphone and just have diarrhea of the mouth. Like if you look at the NBA players today, they insert foot into mouth all the time. They say things in front of these microphones in these interviews and podcasts, and it's self-incriminating. They make themselves look stupid because oftentimes they will say things inadvertently to try to build themselves up by putting other people down and putting other eras down. What you can't do in terms of like media, and social media and all the stuff these guys do with podcasts, you can't talk shit about the guy who's perceived to be the GOAT of the NBA. Very few players have the cachet through today, right? During his playing career, even before he started playing championship level basketball and the Bulls were a championship level team, people were saying this guy was the best player in the NBA and he has the chance to be the best player of all time. They were saying that about MJ in the late 80s. They saw the potential. But in order to be the GOAT, you have to win championships. Like you need to win league MVPs. You need to be an all-time player on both sides of the ball. And you need to do all-time winning, right? Multiple championships. Michael Jordan has the credentials that supersede all things from an NBA standpoint. Like nobody's really close to what he did in such a compact time in the NBA. That's why he's so deeply regarded as the GOAT. People forget about that. When this guy entered his skilled prime and his physical prime, he just started winning and nobody else was winning. He didn't let anyone win. His legacy is part real life and part storyline because nobody had seen that level of dominance for that compacted amount of time. 6 finals appearances, 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, right? League MVPs, dunk contests. Like he has everything checked in his career. That's why he's regarded as the GOAT by so many people. But now you're going to put him in front of microphones in probably a very structured fashion. He's not just going to be talking shit on a podcast. This isn't that mind the game bullshit we see from LeBron. He's going to be put in a position to tell stories, to explain elements of the game. But all people want is his voice. They just want to hear MJ say certain things. Michael Jordan's really smart. He's not going to fall into traps. Like he's not going to be sitting there talking about who's the GOAT. And MJ never talked about that stuff. He never used to do that when he played. I was always impressed by Kobe's laser focus and always focusing on winning and that being the most important thing. Kobe learned that from MJ. That's what MJ cared about because he knew at the end of the day, when people were going to evaluate his career, it was going to be about the wins. It was going to be about the chips, the rings. And I think that's going to continue to persevere in what he discusses when he's on this whole NBA and NBC thing. He's going to talk about how great the players are. Michael Jordan is a steward of NBA legends. He's going to be a spokesperson, an ambassador for the NBA and the NBA and NBC. He's not going to talk down about LeBron. He's going to not talk down about, Anthony Edwards and these. He wants to discuss how great they are. That's what classy legends do. Anybody who thinks that he's going to talk bad about any of these guys, especially LeBron, you're crazy. But what's not going to happen is LeBron and LeBron's media camp, like all that whole media thing, they're in trouble because Michael is now at the forefront of the storylines. Michael is going to be garnering attention. LeBron's not going to feel comfortable repeating while Jordan is having an impact on the media. LeBron's not going to be comfortable talking about how he's the GOAT and how, to the 2016 finals made him the GOAT. He's not going to be saying shit like that anymore because Michael has a presence in the media now. I don't think that MJ is going to call out LeBron on live stream video feeds and games and stuff. That's not going to happen. But This bothers LeBron that MJ is getting spotlight. This is going to piss him off because as long as MJ is in the spotlight and has a presence, LeBron can't do that stuff. LeBron's camp, Rich Paul, these guys, they can't do what they've been doing for the last several years, trying to change the narrative, trying to change the history of the league. Like, what is a GOAT and what makes a GOAT and all that other nonsense. Like that, they're kind of raining on his parade with this move. Notice that they waited for LeBron's career to mostly finish. The NBA and NBC. They waited for LeBron's career to basically be done. Like there's nothing left for LeBron to do that's going to change his position within this GOAT conversation. And LeBron's not really close to being in the GOAT conversation. Even if MJ was the GOAT and all of a sudden LeBron became the GOAT, like what was the thing that moved the goalpost? What was the thing that made Jordan the GOAT that LeBron does better? Like now you got Jordan in your face. Let's see you have those uncomfortable conversations. Let's see LeBron come out publicly today and say he's the GOAT over Michael Jordan. Like, look, I'm not here to argue with you on who the GOAT is. Guys, I hate Michael Jordan. I hate his guts. What this guy did during the 1980s and 90s to my team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, he kept us from winning championships. The Cavs had an incredible team. They had all-star talent. They had like amazing players. Larry Nance, John Hot Rod Williams, Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, Craig Elo. At one point, we had Ron Harper, Danny Manning. Like, we had this team, and screw Embry for all those stupid-ass trades. But, like, we had a team that was built to contend for a title. Just go look back at the Cavs records for some of those years. Look at how good they were. Watch some of those games. And then Michael would kill us. He would beat us in the playoffs, bounce us out of the playoffs all the time. I mean, the Pistons were hard to overcome. The Celtics were hard to overcome. But the Bulls and Michael, even before he started winning championships, he was just bouncing us out. I hate this guy. But God tier NBA status is undeniable. And when it came down to winning at all costs, this guy embodied it. Right? And part of his legend, part of his legacy is the fact that he hasn't been standing in front of microphones with diarrhea of the mouth. You see what I'm saying? So LeBron's not happy about this. Rich Paul, LeBron's camp, they're not happy about this. They can't get away with the shit that they used to. People are going to say, what do you mean you're the GOAT? This is the GOAT. That's what they're going to say. You got the GOAT right here on NBC. Let me see LeBron say, like right now, as Michael is going to be in the booth, in front of microphones, covering the league, actively as a participant of the media, let me see LeBron say he's the GOAT. And let me hear him say 2016 made me the GOAT. Let me see this. I gotta see this. Because I vividly remember LeBron saying throughout most parts of his career, Michael's my idol. He's the best ever. I just want to be compared to those guys. Like saying all the right things. And then all of a sudden switching it up for selfish reasons, for wrong reasons, and just blatant lying. LeBron's pissed. And LeBron's camp, they are pissed. Now they got to deal with an active media member in Michael Jordan, regarded as the GOAT of NBA basketball. Let's see what they do now. All right. All right, let's talk about this point here, this next concept here. And big shout out to Razor. Said Jordan seems to solve things behind doors. LeBron tends to bring him up everything on the media. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the way of today's NBA star, right? They like getting in front of cameras and microphones, and hearing themselves speak and spinning narratives and whatever else. See, the silence is golden. Sometimes players just shouldn't say too much. Closest thing to him is Kobe. I would love to see prime Kobe versus prime Jordan. Yeah, they're pretty comparable players in terms of the style they played, right? I do hear people argue that Kobe was a better defender than MJ. I don't know. I saw both them play defense. It was pretty amazing. That's a tough one. Um, I don't think one could argue the career achievements of MJ as being better than, Kobe's. But I also will say that I don't think Kobe was treated fairly during his time in the league, which is probably a topic for another live stream. Maybe if he was properly awarded, maybe the conversation about Kobe being more like MJ, could be a little bit more substantial. Like him having one MVP, pretty crazy, right? And Steve Nash having two, insane, right? All right. I was listening to Rob Parker and Kelvin Washington on The Odd Couple, that Fox Sports radio broadcast that they do, and they were talking about Mark Daigneault and the whole lineup change for the Thunder versus the Indiana Pacers. And there's something important to discuss here. So prior to the start of the game, Mark Daigneault changed the lineup. He went for a small lineup. He went with Cason Wallace in the lineup over Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, Cason Wallace is an excellent defender, but Hartenstein is going to be able to give you more from a rebounding perspective. And Hartenstein was really effective for most of the game, but there were parts of the game, especially starting and ending it, you saw Cason Wallace in the game. The Thunder ended up losing the game. The Thunder ended up going with a small lineup at the very end that was unable to get rebounds and was obviously focused on defense, guarding the perimeter and those guys, but it didn't play out the way they wanted to. Halliburton still got loose for the jumper in transition, ended up raising up and getting the shot and hitting it. But I mean, this is what this guy has been doing the whole time. But it's interesting to see that Daigneault went with Cason Wallace over Chet Holmgren, who has been with Isaiah Hartenstein this whole time. They've gone with those kind of like two big setups, right? The 4 and the 5. But it's interesting to see that now everybody's having this revisionist history and saying, it didn't work. Most of the game, the Thunder had a 9, 10, 12-point lead. I think it ballooned up to maybe 14 or 16 possibly at some point. I don't remember exactly. But to say that Daigneault made a huge mistake by changing up the lineup, the Thunder had the lead. The Thunder were winning the game, most of the game. It was just until the very end they hit that shot. They were within one possession. The Thunder were up by 1. I'm not really sure if he made a bad decision. Maybe you could say he should have stuck to his guns. You go with what has worked for you up to that point. I'm not really sure that there's a lot of blame to put on Daigneault for this game. Maybe offensively, maybe you should have run something different. Those last few minutes, I think the Thunder had a hard time scoring at the end. I think part of that's on Jalen Williams not really contributing or doing anything. I think part of that's Chet Holmgren not doing anything offensively. I'm not sure if I want to blame it on Cason Wallace and Daigneault's starting lineup change. I just don't see it. And I tend to like to give credit to the team that won. So I'm going to go with Indy. I'm going to go with Halliburton being the reason why the Thunder lost, not Daigneault's decision to go with a small lineup with Cason Wallace and not Isaiah Hartenstein or, what happened with Chet Holmgren or whatever. Yeah, so I'm not sure about that position. Razor says Indiana versus OKC proved to me that OKC is the better team, but Indiana is the better closer. If OKC is able to close the game in a dominant fashion, then they can close the series early. That's the thing, Razor. There's clearly matchups that the Thunder like. There's clearly matchups that Indy likes, but Indy's less worried about the matchups. OKC is more worried about the matchups. They feel like their edge is going to come from certain matchups. For Indy, they probably truly believe whatever we're good at, we're just going to continue to do that, and we're going to live with the results. They didn't change up anything in the second half, except they started to execute better down towards the end, which is characteristically what Indy does. What makes the Indiana Pacers special is the execution at the end of games. They believe they're going to win, right? So I think that's more along the lines of kind of what I see, right? But I'm not going to have revisionist history and say Degnault did the wrong thing. I think the issue, if we're just going to talk the last possession, why was Lou Dort or Alex Caruso not picking up Halliburton from the rebound, from the missed shot? Like instantly they had to find and locate that. They had to make that happen. I think it was Cason Wallace in the game at the end that was defending that, and Halliburton kind of made him kind of lose him a little bit of space. Got a clean look at the rim, shot it and made it. And credit to Halliburton for hitting the shot. You got to take it and make it. I'm not really putting this on Mark Degnault from the respect of the lineup to start the game and that sort of thing. I thought everything was cool up until the very end. The Thunder went on a 12-2 run or something, or excuse me, the Pacers went on a 12-2 run or a 10-2 run to close the game. If you're going to say anything, then it's the offensive issues executing offense at the end. Maybe if Degnault, because he went with the smaller lineup, you could say, well, they took out the rebounding. Maybe you could make that argument. I think that's valid. Got to stay caffeinated. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not sure about the starting lineup being the difference in the game. I don't think so. The Thunder spent most of the game with the lead, especially being up 9 to end the first. I think they were up 12 at halftime. They were up 9 after the third quarter. It was really fourth quarter execution. So if you're going to question Degnault, it must have been the lineup you were looking at offensively. Razor says they were 10-2 Indiana runs in the fourth quarter. OKC cannot allow that. OKC allowed several key threes that gave Indiana the shot to win. I also didn't like OKC's shot selection in the fourth quarter too. I have no problems or qualms with your assessment. I think all that is valid. That's what I saw. That's the same thing that I would be able to identify. The only thing I would say is the Pacers do this to everybody. It's not just like a OKC problem. This is something that the Pacers presents, right? It's not that they're giving up the threes, right? They take them and make them sometimes. It's hard to defend the threes when you got several guys willing to take them and make them. It's not easy to do. So I credit Indy a little bit more than I think most people do. I think the Pacers deserve more of the credit for winning this game than just simply saying the Thunder lost it. Yeah, the Thunder had a lead. You're up 9 to start the fourth quarter. You were up 12 at halftime. You had a lead. You have to close out those games better. So yes, responsibility goes on the Thunder. But the Pacers are a special group. They clearly have shown to be uniquely resilient, and they know how to close out games. And that's where I think you and me agree on that, Razor. Absolutely. All right, last story for today. Oh, man. You guys know I had to do this. All right. Tyrese Halliburton has quickly emerged as the most clutch player in the league. You can't knock down game winners in every series that you've been in during this playoff run and not be known as the most clutch player in the league. Lots of players are clutch. Lots of players hit game-winning shots. Lots of players take lots of game-winning shots and game-tying shots and all that. It's gotten to the point where we have to look back and say the story that came out back in April, I think. Was it April or March? I'm trying to remember when this was printed. Okay, this came out in May, actually. And I covered it here on the channel. I think I did my live stream in April. So it's been around a few months. NBA players have voted by a large margin Tyrese Halliburton as the most overrated player in the league. How stupid do those players look right now? The most overrated player in the NBA is hitting game-winning shots in the NBA playoffs every single series of this run. And he did it against the Knicks, tied the game, forced overtime, they end up winning. He did it against the Cavs. I remember him doing it against the Bucks in the first round. And he does it in the NBA Finals against the best defensive team we've seen in a long time in the OKC Thunder. He's doing it to everybody. They voted him the most overrated player in the league. What the hell? How do you go from being viewed as essentially the most overrated player in the league to the most clutch player in the league, and nobody can argue? You can't say anything. There's no argument. There's no story. There's no narrative where you can't say this guy is special. There's nothing. You can't tell me that Halliburton deserves to be in the conversation as the most impactful player in the NBA. He's in that conversation. Yes, SGA. Yes, Joker. Yes, Giannis. They're in the conversation as the most impactful player. But this guy is hitting game-winning shots in every playoff series in this run. All that needs to happen, the cherry on top, is the Pacers to win the NBA Finals. And him to continue to be a big reason why. His team knows that if they are close within one possession, they can give this guy the ball and he can make the shot to win the game. He's done it against every single team. His confidence is so high right now. I don't think there's anything Tyrese Halliburton believes he can't do. He just keeps doing it. The most overrated player in the league just 2 months ago now has become the most clutch player in the league. And we could start having conversations about how magical this kid is when they win the NBA Finals. That's all he has to do. And it's a huge ask. Winning an NBA Finals is very elusive. I mean, just look at the all-time greats, the best players we've ever seen. Some of them have just a couple of rings. LeBron has gone to the finals how many times? And he's won 4 times. Right? He's been to the finals, what did he go, like 8 in a row, 9 in a row, 10 in a row when he was in Cleveland or whatever? Miami and Cleveland. He went once in 07. He went in 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And obviously in 2020, the bubble ring and all that. And, it's not normal to get to the finals oftentimes. So he, on the biggest stage, hits a game-winning shot. No conscience. Didn't even think about it. He's like, you know what? I'm going to make this shot. It's going in. I know it's going in. His teammates all knew it. It's gotten to the point, guys, where you have to assume if it's a one-possession game and Indy has the ball, you have to assume this guy's going to take the shot and make it. If you're the OKC Thunder, if you're Mark Daigneault, if you are Cason Wallace, if you are Lou Dort, if you are Alex Caruso, you are sending a double team to Tyrese Halliburton. You are forcing the ball out of his hands. You cannot let this guy pass half court with the ball without 2 guys or 3 guys defending him. I'm not even joking. You got to think he's ready to take that shot over whoever. Mark Daigneault had to learn the hard way. It is imperative that they make an adjustment for the next time the situation comes up. This is not the last time. You are not going to see the Indiana Pacers not be in another close game. Like, this is going to happen again. These games are going to be close to finish out these finals. They're going to be like this. Now, it's the Thunder's fault to have all those turnovers to their advantage and not capitalize. It's the Thunder's fault they gave up the lead and were unable to close. But this guy's still hitting those shots. He's scary clutch. You're assuming he's going to make it. And they called him overrated, the most overrated player in the league. Those guys are so jaded. The players that voted him the most overrated, You have to eat crow. You look ridiculously stupid. Razor chimes in. Tyrese Halliburton, one of my favorite players. He has tons of confidence and determination. It's unbelievable they didn't consider him for MVP. Look, I get why he wasn't considered for MVP. For the entire year, SGA deserved MVP. Giannis was in that conversation. Joker was in that conversation because for the entire year, they were playing MVP level basketball. I don't think Tyrese Halliburton was playing MVP level basketball the entire duration of the season. I mean, obviously at the end, the Pacers got really hot. They looked really good. And this run to the finals has been magical. But to see what he's capable of doing now and for the players to think he was overrated just shows you how disconnected, jaded, and just foolish some of these players are. This league is full of players who truly can't identify what's real. And people want to tell me that this is the best era of the basketball history. Are you crazy? You got players calling this guy overrated, and all he's doing is beating up all the best teams in the NBA and hitting game-winning shots over the best defenders in the league. Fearless. All the guts in the world, all the glory in the world, but he's overrated. Man, these people look and sound really stupid. Man, I want to thank you guys for being here for the show. It's been awesome. Razor, thanks for chiming in here. Put him 5th place, but yeah, Joker or Shea were the top MVPs. Yep, I agree. I think that's what it came down to. Oh, but you can best believe that if he wins the NBA Finals MVP, if they win a championship and the Pacers continue to be dominant and continue to be one of the best teams in the league next year, he'll be in the conversation. Oh, it'll be undeniable. Oh, yeah. Because this guy's getting 10 assists a game, 15 assists a game. This guy's good defensively. You know, he's hitting shots. Yeah. Yep. Hallie's here to stay. Him, Cade Cunningham, SGA. The league is in good hands. You know, some of these old guys just got to basically bow out. You know what I mean? Hey, Spurzan. Watching the W, but give my support. I appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. I want to thank you guys for all being here. Please rate this video, like it, share it, all those things. Man, it was fun. It was good to be back. I'm going to try to do streams once or twice a week now that I'm off of work and I've got some time, but it was good to have you guys. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Razor, Spurzan, thank you guys again for all the support. The Goon was here earlier. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. More content coming, more videos. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Game 2 of the finals, I believe, is tomorrow night. We'll be tuning into that. We'll do a live stream after that one, too. A lot riding on this one. If the Pacers win game 2, man, the conversations we're about to have are going to be very uncomfortable. Stay tuned for that stream, guys. We'll see you Sunday night. Peace.